Welcome to our benefit for Honor the Earth, an evening with Winona LaDuke. It is a pleasure to be in a room with so many pipeline fighters. This is sacred work we are engaged in. Each of us knows we're in the fight of our lives. And to fully live into this unique moment in history, we'll have some campaign updates on the Jordan Cove Energy Project and Pacific Connector Pipeline and how to stop them, as well as some soul-levitating inspirational music to get us in the mood.
About 230 miles from Malin to Coos Bay, where it will be processed into liquefied natural gas and then sent by tankers, as they said, to Asia. It's proposed to go through traditional tribal territories, more than 2,000 acres of forest, and across rivers across approximately 400 times. The Coquille, the Klamath, the Coos, the Umpqua, the Rogue, my favorite river. This project was first proposed in 2005. It's been defeated twice at the federal level, but thanks to the current administration, it's back again. It's the zombie pipeline. And just to be clear, it's a Canadian company going through Oregon on its way to Asia. Oregon will see no energy from this.
So as Sandra said, I'm Samantha Kropp. I'm the grassroots organizer with Cascadia Wildlands, and this is one of the projects that we're working on right now. And there's a lot of reasons why we collectively need to be resisting this pipeline. From the extraction site, the fracking, to the pipeline itself, to the actual liquefaction terminal, which is supposed to be in Coos Bay, to the tankers that are going to go ship this fossil fuel to Asia, to the site in which this fossil fuel would be burned and released into the atmosphere. There are myriad issues with this project. And while it's imperative for us to be able to share these stories and celebrate our resistance and laugh together, it's also important for us to recognize that this is a very serious problem that's being posed for our communities, both human and non-human. And one thing that I want to highlight with this project is through the crossing of these rivers, through the threatening of 6 miles of wetlands, through the threatening of 12 different waterways that are actually the drinking water supply for different communities, through the 95-foot clear cut that this pipeline would cause, which is, I want to point out that it's the size of that orange banner over there. If you were to stretch that out, that's the size of the clear cut that would be going through these 232 miles, which includes 70 miles of public land, which is our public trust. So what I want to highlight is that this is an infraction against our public trust. It's an infraction against our collective inheritance, which is the land and the water and the climate that we have inherited from past generations and that we are going to pass off to future generations. And so it's our responsibility to protect it because it's ours and it belongs to all of us. And we can't allow a private entity to take that from us. So I'm going to pass it back to Sandra, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the additional threats that aren't just to our public trust, but that are to individuals, specifically Native populations, traditional territories, and additionally the threat of catastrophic events, which you heard a little bit about from this play.
So as the player said, it's proposed to be in an earthquake and tsunami zone. Crazy. It just seems crazy to me. Spills and leaks. Pembina, the Canadian company, is responsible for hundreds of leaks in Alberta, Canada, where they operate. Spills from LNG tankers are considered to be more dangerous than oil tankers. The tankers will be passing through narrow channels and densely populated communities. And then let's go back to the water, right? Under those 400 waterways that we were mentioning, and in this play was mentioned. So that beautiful, cold, clear, sometimes murky, salt, fresh, green, black, whatever color water that we love, water is sacred. And I say this not to co-opt, but to support and to stand behind. So traditional tribal territories, cultural resources, and burial grounds are threatened by the pipeline. The pipeline impacts the traditional territories of 11 federally recognized tribes. The Karuk, the Yurok, and the Klamath tribes have all come out in strong opposition to the pipeline and have intervened with FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Committee. The Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon, the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, and the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians have also intervened with FERC.
Yeah.
Hello. So again, I just want to emphasize the importance of grassroots involvement when fighting a project like this. And so Cascadia Wildlands and 350 and a number of other organizations are hosting a variety of events in the next week or two. So we're going to start with a no fracked gas comment writing workshop for June 7th from 6 to 7:30 at the Mahonia building by Hummingbird Wholesale. And this is going to be, an opportunity for us to work with whoever is interested to write comments to present at the State Land Board meeting on June 12th. And this is a really awesome opportunity because we're going to write comments that we will actually get to present directly to Governor Kate Brown about why we think this project is irresponsible and why they should not be given the permits to go forward. So again, that State Land Board meeting is June 12th in Salem, and we'll be organizing a carpool from the United Methodist Church here leaving at 7:45 a.m. on, I think that's a Tuesday. And so we'll get to Salem around 9:30, and then have a rally, as well as having some of our members in the building giving comment. So we'll have people protesting outside, hopefully gaining some media interest, and then having others present to Kate Brown and the State Land Board about the potential problems with this project. And yeah. And let me tell you from personal experience, it is an incredibly vindicating feeling to look Kate Brown in the eyes and tell her why you do not want this pipeline in our beautiful state. With that said, I also wanted to plug an event that Climate Justice League is hosting to promote the responsible management of our waterfront. So we're going to have a picnic to gain support to have UO reconsider their development plans at the UO waterfront, and that will be on Wednesday, June 6th from 5:30 to 8:30 by the footbridge at the riverfront. And so there will be discussion, some lectures, and some other things. So I invite everyone to come out to all those events, and I thank you all for your time.
Can I do one more?
Yeah. Oh, the comment writing.
Yeah. Okay, and lastly, if you would like to join the Oregon Fracked Gas Resistance team, we meet right here in this church on, I think it's the third Tuesday. The next one is June 19th. I'm looking for confirmation here. Here, yeah, definitely here. And then also, there are a couple of commenting periods that are open. If we can stop this pipeline before it gets accepted, or before it comes to the point of of standing up in resistance, like people did at Standing Rock, more the better. So,
Check. Thank you so much for this information and for the passion and for the genuine care about where we're going and for this planet. My name's Cassandra Robertson. I came down from Corvallis to sing 2 songs for you tonight. I'm really moved and in it, as you all are, and we all are together. We're really in this together. And this music is to lift our spirits, and as we are here to just really feel that we're here together, so we feel like a team and we feel connected. So this song is written for the activists who have come before us, who are going to come. This song is for you. This is future as I see it. Here's to the ones who've come before us, to the ones who'll come next. Here's to the ones who left a legacy of a life lived well, with nothing left. Here's to the ones who dared to stand up and be counted when it counted most. Here's to the ones who said, if not me, then who, and who are you to take that choice for equality and peace. It's for the animals and the habitat and the trees, for the abused and the mistreated. Well, it's the future as I see it. And you speak for those who have no voices, and you stand for those who cannot walk, and you rise when everything has fallen, and you stay solid as a rock for equality and peace. It's for the animals and the habitat and the seas, for the abused and the mistreated. Well, it's the future as I see it. Here's to those who felt forgotten, and to those we love who risk it all. Here's to those who felt they'd fallen, and to those who just wish upon a falling star. For equality and peace, it's for the animals and the habitat and the bees, for the abused, the mistreated and abused. Well, it's the future as I see it. So we stand up for this earth, all the life that lives on her, and we are strong 'cause we belong to a long line of heroes whose time has come, to a long line of heroes whose time has come, whose time has come, whose time has come, whose time has come. Equality and peace. It's for the animals and the habitat and the seas, for the abused, the diseased and mistreated. Well, it's the future as I see it. Yes, it's the future as I see it. Oh, it's the future as I see it. Yes, it's the future, come and be in it. Thank you. I'll do one more. This song was written in 2008, then it just fell apart, and the song, and then it got finished in 2016. And it's a bunch of verses, and the last line of every verse I repeat too, and then at the end I'll repeat it 4 times. So if you would like to sing a little bit, we can get the energy in here up for Winona when she comes in, or she's in here now. Let's just raise the energy with our voices and with our hearts. If you feel comfortable, want to sing along with me. The song's called In Our Lifetime. It's a new day and we all belong to a long line of heroes whose time has come, and we bow and we bend at this new turn in events, and we go forward now to mend. We go forward now. We go forward now. And the tears they have been released. Cleanse the past histories, and a new path it's laid before all the tender steps of the unborn. Oh, those tender steps. Oh, those tender steps. And to all the people who have never seen someone like themselves in the lead, show us all things can be achieved. Oh, shackled ghosts be released. Oh, that shackled ghost 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 be released. Oh, that shackled ghost. Now everyone is allowed to be themselves and to be it out proud. Where we're from, who we are, and we'll sing it out loud. Everyone is allowed. 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 So just take a good look around. It's coming home to our cities and towns. So we wake and we rise, and in our strength it is found in our lifetime. 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 Everyone is allowed. Everyone is allowed. In our lifetime. In our lifetime. In our lifetime. In our lifetime.
Hi there. Thank you so much. It's really nice to see y'all. This is my granddaughter, Wasmo Aneelan. Want to say Aneen? This is her first big road trip with Granny for a while, and so we're super excited to be out here, and she likes Eugene. So I was Aneen Nindaway Maganaduk, Nikagwe Gitamagas, Bine Sikwe to go Bakwendo Dam, Gababani Kagish, Kaniganing and Dunjaba Miigwich. Thank you again for the honor of being here with you today. We're from the White Earth Reservation in northern Minnesota. When you all know where Minnesota is, so we're all good, right? or someplace between Bemidji and Fargo. And I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about there. But a lot of you know that I was also raised in Oregon. I was raised in Ashland. I'm on my road trip to see Mom. So really excited. Betty LaDuke, a lot of you probably know her. So I'm happy to be on my way out there and always happy to be here. When I come into Eugene this time and I was looking at this church, I think I've been speaking at churches in Eugene for about 35 years. Does that sound about right? You know what I'm saying? I probably know a lot of you from all those times, right? I was thinking like all the dumb stuff that has come up, right? You know what I mean? I think about that a lot of times, and we should really like give ourselves credit for stopping a lot of dumb stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's so many like dumb ideas. Trish is talking about the heavy haul, and I remember like I remember the Trojan nuclear plant, and I was like, it was like works like a Trojan. Wasn't that like the, you know, like they had like, you know, all the clear cutting, just like one horrible idea after another. One time I was like riding around, and I feel like, you know, a lot of you are probably the same way, like this walking dictionary of failed mega projects. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you know, like that LNG terminal off of Santa Barbara, you know, and then they had like this, you know, this different fracking ideas, or I like we had a nuclear waste dump they wanted to put at the headwaters of the Mississippi River, which they called the Headwaters Nuclear Waste Dump. They didn't get that one either. You know, testimony to a lot of really bad ideas, and glad we were all there to stop those from happening, right? Give yourselves a hand. We've done a lot of stuff, and so just think about that, you know? I stood here for a lot of other things. How many of you remember Nellie Luce? She lived here, and she worked on human rights in Latin America. I think she was a Chilean refugee. And I remember being here with her in the era of, you know, the Contra scam and the death squads in El Salvador and the nuns. And I remember Eugene stood for a lot of great things. And so I'm always honored to come back up here and visit, you know, about where we are in the state of the world and this moment that we are in time. You know, I'm not unlike a lot of you. I've been around a lot, you know, but I also feel like that I'm fully cognizant of the fact that we live in this era that's kind of like the middle of the shock doctrine. Like everywhere you look, there's something crazy going on. You're like, nah, you know, but I mean, it's true. It's everywhere. And so the question is, like, for this moment, for all of us, I think is like how you stay coherent, how you stay true, how you like keep, you know, because everything that is around us now both tests our mettle, tests who we are as human beings, as spiritual beings. It tests that about us. And so we must stay strong to our core. Remember who we are, understand the vision, and understand that this is this moment in time when we have the opportunity to do great things. And so we are going to be the people who do those because we've been doing it. And we're going to keep doing it. We're going to even do more great things now because in this moment, there's a lot of people that are awake. A lot of people got woke up in the past couple of years. They got woke up after whatever little lull of consumerism or like happy tie-dye or whatever is going on. You know, we all got kind of woke up, and I feel it. So I'm going to talk a little bit generally. I'm going to show you some pictures from my community. You know, I feel like kind of in the big picture, I was going to talk about what it is to be a water protector. You know, because that is a lot of what my thinking in this time is. But before that, I want to say like a couple more thoughts that I have kind of generally is that, you know, one of the things that I know, and y'all know this too, I think at some level is that, you know, you could keep revisiting the same, it's like a sequel and a bad sequel, and then, you know, the third sequel. And sometimes there's a prequel, you know, I mean, of like bad ideas, right? And they reincarnate for a lot of reasons. But one of the main reasons they reincarnate is that we don't address the level of consumption. We don't address the choices. We don't address the fact that in the colonial to neo-colonial alchemy, as Eduardo Galeano would say, gold changes to scrap metal and food to poison. You know, we keep changing, but you know, what it is that we are dealing with, but at the same time, a lot of the core issues have not been changed. A lot of the core structures. And so to me, this is this moment where we look around and we say, you know, I could keep fighting one bad idea after another, or I could figure out how to change the economy. You know, and that's what I want to do, is I want to talk about the next economy. I want to talk about what makes sense, and I want to talk about where we're going. You know, and so that's a little bit of what I'm going to talk about tonight. And then the other thing I want to say is it turns out no one actually wants an oil pipeline. Did you all notice this? I was in Saskatchewan this last week, and I was like there when Trudeau announced the purchase of the Kinder Morgan pipeline for $4.5 billion. And I was like, wait, let me get this right. Let me get this right. The Canadian government is going to buy a pipeline from a Texas oil pipeline company, letting those guys walk away with $1.4 billion and just like walking, no risk, nothing, profit. And you're going to try to figure out how to make that work. And like, nobody in Canada thinks that's going to work. And just this moment in time when the Canadian government, because nobody really wants that pipeline. Nobody wants the Kinder Morgan pipeline. Nobody wanted Energy East, the big pipeline they wanted to run from Alberta to New Brunswick. That was the biggest pipeline. Nobody wanted that one either. Nobody wanted the Northern Gateway pipeline. That was Enbridge's pipeline that they wanted to run from Alberta to British Columbia. Nobody wanted that one either. And so there's a number of pipelines that have gone down in the past 2 years. And the tar sands industry is sitting there just like squealing because they have no plan, because they're a landlocked province, trying to figure out how to get some oil out, and they don't have a plan. They're really trying to get a pipeline. That's basically this. And what we all got to remember is that you guys, a lot of you are my age, and you remember that this is, the largest oil reserves in the world are not in Canada. They're not actually in Saudi Arabia. The largest oil reserves in the world are in Venezuela. That's where the largest oil reserves in the world are. And because of international oil politics, Hugo Chavez, U.S. relations with Venezuela, the United States has been spending the last 20 years basically trying to figure out how to take Venezuela apart, is what they're doing. And restructuring the oil industry so that they can get it from, the 52nd state, Canada, or whatever it is. And so, there is no reason to be going through the replumbing of North America. There's no reason to be doing all of this, except for that there's some people that want to hang on to a really bad idea, and it's our job to help them move along. Our job to help them all evolve and move along. So, that's kind of this moment in time. I just want to say that we're all in, and I'm excited about it. I'm under a little duress here out east, but I'll tell you a little bit of my story and then where I think we're going. I have a few slides. Oh, see, we went through some slides. So this is where I live. Okay, well, I don't live there, but this is the lake we live on, and then the next one here. This is our wild rice. Next one. This is a really cool picture of wild rice. So we have some wild rice for sale out there, but it grows on lakes and rivers. And all you got to do is take care of your lake or your river, and you can harvest wild rice from the same lake for 10,000 years. That's a pretty cool plan, huh? So that's me and Dawn from my granddaughter's village, Rice Lake. That's Rice Lake. We're on a dock in the lake looking at wild rice. And so that's what a lot of our, it's the keystone of our ecosystem. And it can feed us all, in our territory. It is a great food, and all you got to do is take care of your lakes and rivers. And you can harvest rice forever, and you harvest it with 2 sticks and a canoe. Okay, next picture. So this is my problem, my little pipeline story, and I just, want you to know that I've been fighting the Enbridge Corporation for 5 years. 5 years. I really want a divorce, a really dysfunctional relationship. I feel like he's very abusive. I was thinking about it because, it takes a lot of, energy to battle pipelines for 5 years. But what I want you to know is that we defeated a pipeline in 2016, which was a big Enbridge pipeline. And so our story is like a lot of people's stories out here, in that, we didn't know anything about pipelines, and in our case, we have 6 old pipelines, which are on that one north corridor, which is called Highway 2. And they call it corridor fatigue or pipeline fatigue, which means that they just have too many pipelines in their corridor, and they put them in the 1960s, and so they're put in before the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. They were put in before any environmental regulation. They just kind of like laid across it. Of course, they ran through 3 reservations, Red Lake, Leech Lake, and Fond du Lac. And, so this is all in northern Minnesota, and nobody really was paying attention to pipelines, but now there's 6 of them up there. And they're all Enbridge lines. That's Enbridge's main line, and Enbridge is the largest pipeline company in the world, and it's the 3rd largest corporation in Canada. And as I listen to you guys talk, you're talking about a Canadian oil pipeline company too, right? And I just want to point this out because we all talk about how great it is in Canada. People have romanticized Canada. People have totally romanticized Canada because Canada has the most dysfunctional economy imaginable. It is entirely based on staples. There's 161 First Nations that don't even have potable drinking water in their reserves or villages. Let's just be real. Canada is like neo-colonialism on top of colonialism, and 75% of the world's mining corporations are Canadian. All of my problems and most of the pipeline companies are Canadian. I'm just saying, a lot of my problems come from Canada. And so it's really important to just like call this out and to just like understand the context of it all. And a lot of it, as I said, I was just in Saskatchewan. I was at this conference, and I'm an economist by training, and I was like, this is a really dysfunctional economy. You guys need to like diversify, you need to like move on, you need to like, anyway, you don't need that lecture, but you understand what I'm saying is like, just look at who's doing it. Let's look at who's doing a lot of this. So they got those old lines, that's what Kalamazoo, that's the Straits of Mackinac. All the pipelines that you hear about that are really bad, those are the Enbridge lines, right? And they were put in a long time ago, and the fact is that our whole country is full of this aging infrastructure. You got, a D in infrastructure in the first world country that we live in. And that D in infrastructure, a lot of that is energy infrastructure. And a lot of that is why pipelines leak, corrode, and are just, destroyed. And so like instead of cleaning up their old messes, what these companies want to do is lay new pipe. And I'm someone that believes that, I raise a lot of kids, a lot of grandkids, I feel like you should clean up your old mess. That's like how that works. You don't get to make a new mess, you got to clean up your old mess. And I think that those are like questions that are North American questions. And so they announced this pipeline called the Sandpiper, and it was going to bring fracked oil from North Dakota across our territory, 640,000 barrels a day. We didn't really know much about, fracked oil or pipelines, but they announced they want to run it in the southern corridor because the other corridors just too full of old junk. And so that corridor is what started the riot in northern Minnesota, because that's that Rice Lake you saw is on that line. And so we just said that's not going to work out for us. And we started doing some organizing, and I remember my first meeting with the Enbridge Corporation, because I had seen them, and they, a lot of those First Nations in Canada are small bands, 300 people. And I remember going to my first meeting with they see these people, they call them the tribal relations specialists. We refer to them as the Indian whisperers. We had the Indian whisperer, and then after we blew through a couple of Indian whisperers, I had someone else who, there was a community relations that we referred to as the Indian listener. We had this like whole rotation, but I said my first meeting, I was like, look you guys, this is not Canada. I said there are 5 big reservations here, there are 50,000 Ojibways, and we have legal treaty rights to basically the northern third of the state. And we don't really want these pipelines, right? So, I'm just saying, we built a multiracial alliance like you guys are all doing out here. Multiracial alliance, and a lot of folks came out. A lot of probably your relatives that live in northern Minnesota came out. A lot of northern people came out and just put everything they had. Put themselves on the line. And I just want to say that because in Oregon, I generally think that people are more outspoken than northern Minnesota. And so in Minnesota, when people start coming out, they're like summoning up every bit of what they got to say something. 68,000 people testified at these hearings. 68,000 people testified at these hearings. The battle went for, basically 3 years, a battle, and we rode our horses against the current of the oil. My friend Riverstone's back here. He helped us out a lot. He's a writer, and also Trish is a writer. But we're in the regulatory process. We forced an environmental impact statement, a lot of the same regulatory procedures that you all face out here. And in that process, because they didn't think that they should do an EIS, I was like, really? 640,000 barrel a day fracked oil pipeline off of a new, you had to sue the state to get them to do an EIS. Like that's how, bad the system is right now. And, in the end, after, forced to do the EIS, the Enbridge Corporation, on one day after our 4th ride, on August 2nd, 2016, they announced the cancellation of the Sandpiper. They announced that they canceled the pipeline. So I tell you that it was, a hard-fought battle, and I tell you that also because in my experience with this, this year in January, February, till this last few weeks, I seen them No, about a month ago they quit. I've seen the back of pipes leaving my territory. You know what I'm saying? I saw trucks full of pipes leaving and going out on a train. Yeah. And so I just want to say that I cried. You know, I cried a few times on that, you know, because it's like a lot of my life and a lot of our people, like a lot of stress for our communities up north, because, you know, we're right in the heart of that, and that, you know, some of our communities are almost 50% water. So you don't want a pipeline through there. You know, we're like super, you know, we're all full of wild rice, you know. So anyway, you know, what they did is they bought 28% of the Dakota Access Pipeline. That's what the Enbridge Corporation did. And so, you know, that is how they got their fracked oil. But it didn't go through the same route that they had said because, you know, they said they really needed that route. And then one day they just bought the Dakota Access Pipeline or 28% of it. And I was like, you know, it felt like we just got dropped. I was like, I was making fun of them. I was like, you didn't even call me, you didn't text me, just one day you just dropped me. I was like, so having said that, you know, you could show the next set of slides. We went out to North Dakota, you know, to Standing Rock, and, you know, a lot of you saw this out there. And I'm not gonna, there's a few pictures of Standing Rock there. But I wanna point out, you know, this is obviously the use of you know, military surplus equipment on civilians. A lot of you, you know, were there, and a lot of you really supported us all out there. And I just want to thank everybody, you know, for helping people out there. And you know, we learned a lot in North Dakota. And you know, we learned. I mean, for people who are out there, you saw what it is to live in the deep north, which is what North Dakota is. And I'll tell you, from my experience, Saskatchewan is further north. You know, and I'm just saying this because there's a lot of, in the process of American culture, you know, there's a lot of people who like keep moving. And there's this whole frontier, I'm gonna move someplace better, I'm gonna move someplace nicer. And so people just keep moving, and I think that they lose a lot of connection to place. And they don't feel, you know, they don't fight for a place that they live in because they just move on. I'm just being honest with you. And then a lot of people just left that whole region. You know, their ancestors came out and settled, and then you know, people just fly over North Dakota. They don't stop there unless, you know, you're at Standing Rock. I mean, what I'm saying is people don't go out there. And so bereft of that, you know, civil society was diminished in North Dakota significantly. I mean, and the example of that is the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, only had one person that covered North and South Dakota. Right, so what I'm saying is you're all part of these organizations. And I'm saying that what happens in North Dakota affects us all. You know, and if you can, you know, I mean, I know that there's the neo-Nazis here, you know, and I just know that North Dakota has a lot of neo-Nazis. You know, and if we're gonna be a progressive movement, we have to also figure out how to be in places where it's not comfortable to be. You know, it's super comfy out here. I mean, I could like hang out. I was like, I'm gonna grow hemp, and I was thinking I'll just grow hemp and live in Ashland. You understand what I'm saying, though? You know, and sometimes you gotta go to tough places, you know. Trying to get Trish to come back to eastern Montana again with me. Show me eastern Montana, that's a tough place, man. Beautiful, beautiful. Anyway, so this is what it looked like there, and then this is the last thing, the only thing that's left there. It's a really cool statue. I know, how many of you were out at Standing Rock? That's really cool. And I know a lot of people supported folks that were out there, but you know, for those of you who are out there, you probably remember this piece. This piece is called Not Afraid to Look. And this is up at Sacred Stone Camp, and it's the only thing left of all the camps. Really an amazing thing. And the interesting thing about the piece of art is that the art is, this guy's name is Charles Rencontre, and that guy, that's him, Charles, with LaDonna. And that little dude there, he's what's called on an effigy pipe. I don't know if that means anything to y'all, but you know, so there'd be a traditional smoking pipe, you know, for praying with. And in that pipe, like that's made of that pipe stone, there's that guy, and then he's sitting and he's facing the bowl of the pipe that you put your tobacco in. Y'all follow me on this? You know, so the man is there, and I think he faces outward. Yeah, he faces outward. But the pipe has a name, and the pipe was in the Andrew Jackson collection. The pipe had a name. The pipe's name was Not Afraid to Look at White Man. Is that really badass or what? Yeah. So I like that because it's known as not afraid to look. And it's really like, do not be afraid. You know, and we can all, you know, because, I mean, y'all don't need the whole lecture on this, but it's really, you know, I'm not talking about white people. I mean, white people's a social construct. I'm talking about a state of mind. You know, you could call it washichu, or, you know, what I refer to it in the larger economic sense, that I refer to it as the Wendigo economy. The Wendigo economy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but, so that's, you know, that battle, and then back, next slide, I think, I don't know what this slide, what's in, can I see the next one? Okay, oh yeah, so remember this map? This is the same map. Okay, so this is, but we have this map because they came back with another pipeline, and this is the pipeline I'm now fighting, which is known as Line 3. Same corridor proposal, and this is Enbridge's largest proposal. And, you know, I told you a little bit that, you know, there was this intention to build about 2 years ago, there was like 5 pipelines on the map that they proposed. Because you got to get that tar sands oil out someplace. That dirty, gucky stuff that should never get out, right? And so we're just trying to stop it from getting out. That's like our plan, is to like not let them get it out, right? That's like part of the big plan. But the, so there was Energy East, there was Northern Gateway, both those two got canceled. And then remember how Obama did not issue the permit for the Keystone? Right, remember that one? So that's the third big tar sands pipeline, right? And so then Trump in his little like fairy dust thing he does, like, here, let me just make this happen. You know, he want to resuscitate that. And then there's Kinder Morgan, right, which doesn't go across the border, but it goes in, you know, it goes to the West Coast. It's a Canadian export pipeline to China, is what that is. And then there's Enbridge Line 3. So that's like the pipeline, the tar sands battle of what's on the ground. I'm just telling you, right? And so a couple of those were already canceled, as I told you before, the Northern Gateway and Energy East, leaving 3 pipelines, right? And of those 3 pipelines, the Keystone pipeline is, you know, although he put the fairy dust on it, for anybody who's watching the regulatory process, Nebraska didn't issue the permit, right? Y'all remember this? You know, Nebraska did not issue the permit. They said, go ahead, we think you got a need, but no route. They didn't issue the route permit, right? And the other thing is that when Obama did not issue the permit for the Keystone pipeline, they lost all their shippers. And so they don't actually have shippers. You know, they're trying to find some shippers for the Keystone pipeline, and a pipeline without shippers and without a route is not likely to be built. Y'all understand this? But you gotta be diligent on all these. But I'm just saying, like, that's how pipeline economics works, which leaves 2 pipelines, Kinder Morgan, that just got purchased by the Canadian government because they are so desperate to make something work there, right? And then Line 3, right? And this Line 3 is this like epic battle right now that's going on. And, you know, so in the state of Minnesota, you know, we all learned from North Dakota, we're not like North Dakota. You know, we have a multiracial alliance that defeated the last pipeline. A lot of them look like you. A lot of people in the North Country have like $1 million homes on lakes. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, this is not like North Dakota. And we don't have any oil. And we already have 6 pipelines, and we're all pretty, you know, pissed off. But it's brutal. It's a brutal battle, and I've been in it, you know, day in and day out. Like I said, it's like a really dysfunctional relationship. So the next picture. So this is what it looks like on the ground in Minnesota. I'm just saying this is not Bismarck. This is Duluth. And there are like thousands of water protectors throughout the state that, you know, have been there and have you know, like as I said, 68,000 people turned out to testify against the pipeline at the hearings, right? Right. Now, if the system works, we're good. Y'all like that? And y'all want the system to work, right? I mean, I feel like we're supposed to live in this democracy. We wish it would work, right? I mean, you know, let's just get real. Somebody, you know, we want a system to work. We want something that has checks and balances. You want to feel like the Environmental Protection Agency is not the Environmental Pollution Permitting Agency. You know, you want to feel like, you know, agency after agency actually does the right thing instead of, you know, become, you know, another victim of corporate hijacking, right? You know, and I got that. you know, because I've been in there, and I know that everybody in here knows that this is not just about one way that you defeat a project. It's not like the legal strategy, like the lawyers are always like, and then we have this. I was like, it is everything is how you defeat a pipeline. You know, it is every piece of it, and including the economics of it. You know, including the economics of it. It has to be like really, really painful. You know, and when they quit a project, I don't know if y'all notice this, is when they decided not to do a project, they never say, sorry, right? We're wrong. Do you ever hear any corporations say that? No. No, they always say it was deemed uneconomical, right? Don't they always say that? They like come out with something like that, like it was not, you know, it's just like that. And so my point is that, you know, you gotta, you know, everybody knows mega projects take a lot of bucks. And you keep fighting them and building the divestment movement, right? You keep fighting them, and the longer you can fight them, the less likely it is for their project to succeed, right? That's just the way it works. That's my, you know, experience in my little life of fighting stupid projects. You know, and everybody here pretty much knows that. So that's, you know, where we are at. And in the state of Minnesota, what we have now is 2 decisions in our favor. You know, we have this really complex terrain. We got a rusting iron range, right? You know, we have big craters in northern Minnesota. You know, I mean, everybody here knows that we have like dismantled most of the working class and most of the infrastructure and anything that we build in this country. We just ship it in from China or someplace else, right? And so we have this like kind of disintegrating working class unions in the north. And those, you know, some of those guys have been convinced that the pipeline is the future, right? That's for sure. You know, nobody pointed to the fact, I mean, I was at a legislative hearing about 2 weeks ago at the state capitol, and it was a pipeline hearing, and they were trying to shove that pipeline through as a jobs bill. Right, that's right, I laughed too. I was like, I almost felt, I felt like saying, are y'all high? I was like, there's no jobs in the long term. I mean, the Enbridge Corporation has 15 people working at its big tank farm because it's all automated in the town of Clearbrook. You know, Minnesota, poor town. That's where Enbridge's, you know, crown jewel up there is Clearbrook. And I said, they got 15 people working there. You know, and as a matter of fact, in December, the Good Samaritan Lutheran Nursing Home in the town of Clearbrook closed down. That's where all those old people from those farming communities stayed, right? In that town of Clearbrook, they stayed right there. But that nursing home didn't have the money to continue operating, but their largest corporate town owner, Enbridge, didn't help them, you know? And my point is that when those guys left, when they closed the Good Samaritan nursing home, they lost 50 jobs. 50 jobs, and those were good jobs. Those were jobs taking care of people who needed to live there. You know, and so I feel like a reframing of this discussion, these mega projects are not jobs projects. That's what I said in the hearing, and I was sitting next to the guy from Clearbrook, and I was like, you didn't hold a hearing on that, did you? You didn't hold a jobs hearing on the closure of the, you know, nursing home. You just want to hold a jobs hearing on a pipeline. You know, so we just need to be really persistent and really right there, you know, in these arenas. So, you know, what we are looking at now is that the state has not recommended the pipeline so far. In the fall, somebody called the Department of Commerce was in charge of looking at the economics of the pipeline. Department of Commerce held a whole bunch of hearings, and the Department of Commerce recommended against issuing a certificate of need for the pipeline. That was in the fall. That was like in November, right? And then on April 23rd, we had 2 very important decisions in the Minnesota courts. The first one was the administrative law judge who has reviewed all the 68,000 testimonies, plus, you know, the tens of thousands of papers, plus cross-examined every witness to her, you know, as she liked, including a lot of Enbridge witnesses who divulged that if there was a catastrophic oil pipeline failure, the subsidiary of the subsidiary of the subsidiary that owned the pipeline was not actually even liable for the catastrophic failure of the pipeline. You know, that's the way it's going, right? Y'all know that, right? It's like these limited liability corporations that aren't actually going to pay anything. So anyway, the judge ruled against Enbridge. What the judge said is the judge said, you know, you might need a pipeline. You know, you probably need a new line because line 3 has to be taken out. But you don't get, I don't recommend you get a new route. I think you should go back to your old route with them 6 pipelines in it, and you should clean that up. And you should cite it in that old route. And as a matter of fact, as I reviewed the leases that you had with the tribes and the landowners along that route dating from the 1960s, those don't look like they were so good. And so it's no wonder they don't want the pipeline there. And as a matter of fact, since the rest of your pipelines come up for a renegotiation of easements in 2029, there's 5 more lines in there. If I was you, or 4 that are coming up for their renegotiation. If I was you, Enbridge, I'd start trying to talk to them now, because 2029 is not that long, and nobody wants those easements. That's what she told them. So the judge did not recommend a new route. So I'm telling you, in our process, if the system works, on June 28th, the Public Utilities Commission will not issue not issue a permit for this pipeline. That's if the system works. And I'm praying the system worked, but I'm preparing to camp. That's what I'm doing. That's what a prudent woman would do, because we would be preparing to camp. So let me just tell you the rest of our story here real quickly. So first, there's 2 pieces. One is we are preparing for the next economy. I refer to this as the post-Windigo regenerative economy. Next picture. And I refer to this as the Sitting Bull plan. And I say that because Sitting Bull was a really visionary political leader, and of the many things he said, he also said, let us put our minds together to see what kind of future we can make for our children. In the moment we are in, we can spend all our time trying to deal with the dysfunctional economic system, where we can be about making the next economy. And I think we need to be about making the next economy. We need to fight these guys on every realm. But at the same time, what I see is what you see. I mean, you see things like Mr. Trump saying, I don't like fuel efficiency, so I don't really care. And I'm like, look at that. And then California is like, well, we do, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and then his other, so I was like, and besides that, I was like, you're dumb. Who wants a car that goes 4 miles a gallon? I mean, what I'm saying? He's like, he says a lot of dumb stuff, right? And so, there's like the Trump plan, and then there's the Sitting Bull plan. I feel like we ought to go with the latter. But within that, you live this. You live it. We could talk about, Bayer or Bayer buying Monsanto, right? Or we could, that's wrong, but at the same time, let's just keep building our organic industry. Because the fact is that more people are going organic. Everybody wants to eat local food. Everybody wants to go to the farmer's market, or everybody wants to garden, or everybody wants to build, grow a victory garden. That's what I'm suggesting. Start growing your victory gardens. So that's what people actually want. And so our strategy is to keep growing that out. So here's a couple pictures from our territory. That means next one. Okay, so this is actually Melina. This is who inspired me, but this is Melina Lubicon up in a little Buffalo, a village up in the middle of what's known as the tar sands, Athabascan River. And her health clinic ran on a diesel generator. And so for her master's thesis at the University of Victoria, she put up 20 kilowatts of solar to power her health clinic, right? So that's what the next economy looks like. You work hard, and so next picture of that, so see, I was like, look, Melina, I did it too. This is my 20 kilowatts of solar for our school in my village at Pine Point. So how was this winter? And then the next picture. This is what our rice economy looks like. And so we sell some of our wild rice out there, but as you guys think about it, it's like fair trade wild rice. You can get it from a diked rice paddy in Northern California or Oregon, or you can get some rice that tastes like a lake. It's a different thing. It's all good. But I'm saying that's what fair trade rice looks like. It comes from guys that look like that, on a lake in Minnesota. Next one. This is our hemp project. So I was doing the past couple days, doing some hemp research, and I just, a few thought, what I'm doing is Winona's hemp. I've been a hemp grower for the last 3 years. I have a permit from the state of Minnesota to grow industrial hemp. I'm growing industrial hemp. That's what's legal in my state, and I'm interested in appropriately scaled hemp production, organic fiber hemp. That's what I'm doing, is I'm trying to grow for fibers. And y'all know why I'm doing that, because everything I'm wearing is toxic and everything you're wearing is toxic. You know, it's made of petroleum byproducts, or maybe if I've got cotton, it's got 5,000 gallons of water for a t-shirt and pants. And that's not what we need. We need an economy where, you know, where we have less clothes to start with, you know. And we can upscale or whatever, but we need to rebuild, you know, because the state of Minnesota used to have 11 hemp mills until the 1940s. We grew our clothes. And so, like, that's what I want. I want that back. And so I did a Kickstarter. People helped me. I got a farm, and I'm working on that. I got in we have about 6 acres of fiber hemp varieties in. And then I am growing some CBD varieties, you know, for my community. And so I came to visit with I was pleased. I met some different hemp farmers out here and people in the industry. And I was at the farmers market, and I felt a bunch of hemp fabric. But, you know, so that's a piece of the economy. And for my community, that's going to be, you know, we want a mill. That's what we want. Because and we're right next to the railroad. I have a railroad that runs through my reservation that runs into Manitoba, and Manitoba is the second largest hemp producing province in Canada after Saskatchewan. And so I want to go across the border and move hemp. And we have a plan. We're like really excited about it. I'm really excited, more excited about the next economy than this economy. Did y'all get that? I'm like all ready to move on. You know, a couple of thoughts on that, though, and I think it's really, you know, this has to be an economy of cooperation, not competition. The time of competition has to be over, because what we need is to cooperate to make the next economy one that's going to work. It needs to have a different set of values, and, you know, I am as concerned as many people from Oregon are about how the cannabis industry is moving in this state. I'm just going to be out and out open about it. You know, I believe a plant is not a slave. I think a plant is not a slave, and if you are always going to work with plants and turn everything into something that is like commodified and turned into a slave and is about your profit, you have gone the wrong way. I'm just going to say that, you know. And I think it's going to be a really big challenge. I mean, I was raised in Ashland, and a lot of you people know this about me, and my father worked at the agricultural experiment station with the pear trees. And I have seen, you know, orchard after orchard cut for vineyards. And now that I've seen them cut for cannabis. You know, and I worry about where our food is going to come from and how we are relating to each other. And I think that is a really particular Oregon, you know, battle. And you know, from my perspective, I mean, I know that there's a challenge, you know, there's between the, you know, it's because of all the regulations, but between the marijuana industry and the hemp industry, and there needs to be room for both. But, you know, I'm just saying, Oregon, it would be great if Oregon could figure out how to make this really a cooperative, positive, regenerative economy, and not a carryover from the last economy. You know, so that's just what I want to say about that. The next couple pictures. So this is my village. I just have to show this because I'm hanging out with y'all, and, you know, I just have to say the community that I live in has a lot of stuff going on that is not what I want and is not what we want. This is a snapshot from a film called The Seventh Fire, and the film talked about the meth epidemic in this village. So this is just a single shot from when something was burning there. But you know, the fact is that it is a bad situation. I have a heroin epidemic. You know, and so I'm dealing with the poorest communities in the state of Minnesota that have a heroin epidemic and are looking down the face of a pipeline. You know, and we are really, really strong, and, you know, our people are rolling on this. But, you know, I'm just saying, like, it's what I'm ready to do is to move into a place where we are healing. You know, and I'm ready to move into the next economy. And so they took this snapshot of our community, and then the next picture, and we didn't really like it. And so then we started this project this last summer, or 2 summers ago. And so we started painting the houses in the village. And so we painted a bunch of murals on the houses. There's a couple more pictures too, right? Kula, that's in our housing project. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. And then we put some solar thermal panels. I don't know if the solar thermal panels on the south side of the walls. And then we're building a solar thermal manufacturing facility in this village. So That's what the next economy looks like, because in northern Minnesota, people have heat poverty. They have fuel poverty. You know, and if you can reduce people's heating bills by 20%, that's a really good thing to do. You know, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and you know, I'm really interested in it, but a lot of the work that needs to be done, you know, is like you just need to retool the energy economy. And you also need to return to wood, because every HUD housing project, they pulled the wood stoves out of. You know, and I don't know how to fix it all, but that's what we're trying to do. You know, because in each community, you know, if you're an economist, like a local economy, mine is hemorrhaging. It's hemorrhaging out food, it's hemorrhaging out energy, everything is hemorrhaging. You know, and so if you actually want to build a resilient local economy, you have to quit buying all your stuff someplace else. And you need to build a local multiplier. So that's what we're trying to do, and then also, you know, a lot of our interest is in, you know, building it from, you know, where people are at, because a lot of people in my village don't have either, you know, they don't have a car, a license, or insurance. So why would we make jobs that you have to drive to? You know, and a lot of people don't have and we have no daycare. You know, so that's like some of the next pieces that I'm interested in. You know, but so this is our work at Honor the Earth. Next couple pictures, and then that's my grandsons after one of our ride last year. A couple of my grandsons. Next one. Oh, this is for y'all. So on June 28th, we're going to know what happens with the Line 3, single largest tar sands pipeline. And we are welcoming water protectors to come and spend some of their summer in Minnesota. What I want to tell you is that we will have Honor the Earth has purchased some land upon which we will have an educational and cultural camp. You know, but what I will also tell you is that the pipeline, not permitted, if permitted, almost half of it crosses county or state land. And in the state of Minnesota, you can camp on county or state land for up to 2 weeks without a permit. And, you know, so I'm really trying to figure out how they figured this pipeline is going to work out. If you understand what I'm saying, there's 7 pipe yards. We know where the equipment is. And there's a lot of people who don't want a pipeline. And you know, a lot of us were at Standing Rock, and I'm not going to wait someplace for them to come. You know, if they issue a permit, everyone should be watching to see what happens, and everyone should be present. That's all I'm going to say. They should be present in a lot of places on the line. And so, you know, this last week I did something with, you know, interfaith power and light. And like, I think that each denomination is going to take a camp. You know, that's what I'm saying. And for those of you who went to Standing Rock, I just want to say that Minnesota is a land of campgrounds. And there are, in fact, you know, about 100 campgrounds that are on or adjacent to the proposed pipeline route. So you can camp with a shower. You understand what I'm saying? You can camp by the lake. Minnesota camping is wonderful. And, you know, so this summer, please, you know, keep an eye on our website, Honor the Earth, or stopline3.org. But these billboards just went up in northern Minnesota this week that say welcome water protectors, because we want everybody to know that we're all water protectors. Because we're all water protectors. And I think that's it. Last slide, I think. That's us. So listen, you know, in closing, I just want to say, you know, as I said at the beginning, it's like this moment in time where it's us. Everybody's pretty much counting on us. You know, they may not see you, and some of them didn't arrive here yet. But they're counting on us to be courageous and strong and thoughtful and compassionate and visionary. And to do cool stuff, you know? And it's really our moment, and what a great moment to be in. We have this opportunity to see some amazing things happen and save some bad stuff from happening, stop some bad stuff, but you know, like us, we brought back the sturgeon on my community. You know, we brought back the sturgeon to our community, to our village, and to our lakes and rivers. And I was like, we did that, we're gonna take care of them. You know, because our relatives are there. So be coherent in this moment. You know, understand where we're going and understand the spiritual opportunity we're in. Miigwech, thank you for your time.
We have some minutes for some Q&A. Sure. We have a couple minutes for some Q&A. I'll set it up.
Thanks for your comment. Hi.
Hi. I know many of us activists want to take leadership from Native American people and people who are natural allies. And I wonder if you could, I know you're not obligated to educate us about how to do that cooperatively and effectively, but could you give us some pointers for how best to honor your traditions and to take leadership from your people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of examples and a lot of ways, and certainly a lot of people came to Standing Rock to support people there. And in northern Minnesota, I would say that that occurs to a great extent. So there are, depending on the issue, but in a lot of this work, there are people who are working on it, and so just figure out how to support their work. Build, some alliances, but then remember that a lot of the folks here, you guys have access to stuff we don't have access to. You can go in places, you can, get legislators to do stuff. Don't make it just on the issue that you're working on with them, but figure out, a lot of these tribes are facing, tremendous health care cuts. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's everywhere, I'm aware of that, but, in working in partnership, just kind of see what's needed, and just figure out there's usually some direct ways to help, and then in the broader alliance, be in broader alliance. I think that's really important, and I've seen that grow from in the movement on against the pipeline. We have a really good alliance, and the church, 500 church leaders just sent a letter to the governor and the Public Utilities Commission saying don't issue this permit. And in the things that they said a lot of treaty rights and a lot of Anishinaabe people, they don't, this isn't right to do this to them. It's not right to do it. So I'm saying is you can use your influence, and there's in the pipeline battles here, there is indigenous leadership too. So thanks for your question though. Mm-hmm.
I was just wanted to ask a question about someone said in one of the earlier comments before you came up that the LNG tankers are more dangerous in a spill than the oil tankers, and I'm wondering, I have kind of an idea about how that works because I know the pipelines are not adequately inspected. Greg Palast has said that the pipeline inspection gauge is otherwise known as a pig that goes through the pipe, and particularly in San Bruno before it blew up. The pig went through the pipe right before it blew up, and they didn't find a defect. So I'm wondering, is that what you're talking about when you say it's more dangerous, or what's the deal?
What I just want to say is that we just need to quit making more fossil fuel infrastructure. Do you know what I'm saying? Is otherwise I'll be splitting hairs over which project is worse than the next. And I think that what we need to do is move clearly into a transition away from that. And everybody here knows, the fact is that the combustion engine is only 16% efficient, and an electric engine is 65% efficient. So what kind of society would hang around with a 16% efficient engine? A dumb one. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm saying just time to move on. And we need to quit trying to figure out which way. Saskatchewan won the award. I was up there and I wrote this article called Dumb Stuff Canada Does. $1.5 billion carbon sequestration facility on a 50-year-old coal-fired power plant. I was and it didn't work. I was yeah, it's really hard to get carbon back into the soil after you take it out, isn't it? But that 1.5 billion, and the same time Saskatchewan spent that much money, there was the Como spent 1.5 billion. I don't know if anybody saw that, and did 26 renewable energy projects. I was carbon sequestration projects are kind of like putting lipstick on a pig. You know what I'm saying? It's time to quit. It's just time. A carbon sequestration project is just don't do it. Go solar. Anyway. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. Yeah.
I'm feeling, and I think a lot of other people are feeling too, that at this time where I feel true leadership is really scarce, it is a true blessing to be able to hear you speak, and you're a true model for a way of living and a way of being and approaching these challenges in front of us. And what I want to ask was, you mentioned before many people in this audience are around your age, but for those I see who are around my age, do you have any message especially for us as we step into a more leadership role in the coming years? anything, especially for those of us who come from a history, a lineage of people who have been subjugated, enslaved, any message for us, in my generation.
Yeah, you're cool, man. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the overall message. I mean, learn from us. Some basic elements I told you, like how you do this. Always be happy, be positive. You know what I'm saying? Because life's great. Every day you wake up, this is great world. So just keep that in your heart and be grateful. And then as you look around, like there are so many different ways to stop a Wendigo. But you need to coordinate, you need to not be an island of political correctness unto yourself. I heard the Zapatistas say that. I was like, yeah, that's it. Be compassionate and but be at the same time, you have to be mindful and incisive. Like not every strategy is going to work. Don't get wedded to a strategy. And, figure out, the pieces. It's like a puzzle. To me, like a lot of this political work is kind of like a Rubik's Cube. You know what I'm saying? Because you move this thing and this thing happens here, but then you actually don't move all the pieces. So y'all understand what I'm saying? And so like you're trying, it's complex. So you have to think like that, and you have to think both long-term and have some historic knowledge, and you got that. So keep that, and then just, take a breath and know your time. Know your time. Sometimes you wait. Sometimes you think it's them, but sometimes things have their own time. So watch, be really observant and watch that. And then, we're counting on you, and you guys are my retirement plan, so go. I think you're all great. Yeah, you're great.
So I'm working through this question, but so kind of some of the things that I saw in your presentation was talking about just transition, some of those are transition principles. So how do we move towards that more? Is it at a local level, or moving people from communities that into those positions of power to pass those laws, or where does it kind of start? Because everybody's organizing at different levels to move us there, but how do we get us there, to solidify?
Well, I'm a community organizer, and I just know how to do it where I live. But the model is similar. You just kind of do it, and you get started, and you integrate it, and you take back your power, and I don't even want to say I ask forgiveness. I don't ask permission. You just keep going. And then it kind of liberates people as you go. And when people see that it is possible, then more pieces move. And I don't know the specific answer to how, but I know that it, in our case, it is it's changing. Although I may have to say I have challenges.
Definitely. So then how do we? Because a lot of these kind of so principles are moving towards solar panels and wind energy. How does that also not become a capitalistic kind of model?
There's no easy answer. What I will say is that the Danish wind industry for a long time was all community owned. A lot of the biggest success on a worldwide scale in terms of renewables is community microsolar, projects that are owned by the communities and not by corporations. And I think that's really that's what the next economy needs to look like. That's what it needs to look like. So thanks. I'm going to take one more question from the sister behind you, because she's been standing there and she has a sore leg.
I have a question to ask you about. I grew up actually where this is going to go through, up above the North Fork of the Coquille River. And all of these projects that I've noticed are always going across water. And I don't think that's a coincidence that they're always deciding to build pipelines across major waterways when Goldman Sachs said that water's the next oil. And I think that they're maybe looking at that, and if you make it scarce, then you can monetize it.
They're already doing that. You know, you got all the bottled water companies like Nestle. You know, you got people sucking up all the water and then selling it. You know, I mean, it's criminal. The ownership of the water is criminal. You know, and I'm just saying, you know, that's why I'm a water protector. You know, because I want to protect the water. I don't want to fight about who gets to own it. I just want to protect the water. You know, and I feel like that's part of the consciousness that has arisen, particularly since Standing Rock, but at some level, we've all been water protectors for a pretty long time. You know, because you know, that's where our life comes from. And everybody here knows that all of the water is at threat. You know, all of the water is at threat. And, you know, so where I live, you can still drink the water from a lake. You still got springs. You can go in the boundary waters and you can canoe and drink the water.
And the salmon, there's salmon spawning grounds up there.
Right.
And the land's unstable. I remember when there was a huge landslide because a beaver dam broke.
Right. We're not prepared. There's no infrastructure preparation. There's no way to prepare for the catastrophes that we're trying to create. You know, and everybody here knows that, so we're just going to try to avert them before they do them. Because, you know, there's no way. The forest fires taught us that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know specifically out here, but, you know, I mean, you have a strong community out here of people that are engaged in social justice work. But a lot of it is practice. You know, to me, a lot of it is like, you know, how you, I mean, and you have a lot of that here already. I don't need to tell the people of Eugene about like the local market, you know, because people are already doing the local market and people are doing the local food and working on the local energy. I mean, Eugene is full of enlightened people doing these things. We just wish some of you would come to northern Minnesota and help us out a little bit. You know, I need like the pedal-powered solar, I need the pedal-powered thing to charge all the cell phones that are going to come to northern Minnesota. I was like, I mean, that's little stuff, you know, I could figure that out. But I'm just saying, you know, you got a lot of it here. And I feel like that, you know, Eugene, I mean, the communities need to be rebuilt to embolden each other, you know, to find strength and happiness in that and you know, social movements. So thanks, you guys. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming out.
Give it up for Winona. Let's give it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. This is awesome. Yeah.